Good evening, Americans, and welcome to the Ed Show tonight from New York. Well, today is the first day of Women's History Month. The Republicans, they celebrated it and kicked it off the month by voting in the Senate to let your boss take charge of your health care. And Rush Limbaugh doubled down on his ugly attack on a 24-year-old college student. Sandra Fluke is here to respond for the first time tonight. This is the Ed Show. Let's get to work.
Republicans are kicking off Women's History Month by bringing the Blunt Amendment to the floor in the United States Senate.
The war on women takes center stage in the Senate as 48 senators voted to roll back women's rights.
We have men on the other side of the aisle here, for the most part, telling women what their rights should be.
New Hampshire Senator Jeanne Shaheen will weigh in. What will it take for Republicans to denounce their leading voice as he attacks college student Sandra Fluke?
It makes her a slut, right? It makes her a prostitute. She wants to be paid to have sex.
Tonight, Sandra Fluke is here exclusively to respond to Rush Limbaugh's disturbing comments. Plus, reaction with Now's Terry O'Neill and Professor Caroline Heldman. A federal judge in Montana is under fire for sending a despicable, racist, anti-Obama email. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson is here to talk racism in the Republican Party.
Good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. The first battle may be over, but Republicans are vowing to continue the war. Today, the Senate voted to table the Blunt Amendment 51-48. The measure would have given your boss a say in your health care. It would give an employer or an insurance company the authority to deny any essential or preventative care, from contraception to cancer screenings, for any reason.
Now, Mr. Blunt is giving insurance companies a way to say, oh, we really feel sorry that you have cancer. We're really sad that you have diabetes. We're really torn apart that you might have a stroke. But you know what? We have a moral objection to the kind of therapies that they're out there today, so we're sorry. That's what the Blunt Amendment does.
It's an effort to stop the Obama administration policy that would require health insurance coverage to include birth control and emergency contraception. The president offered a compromise to religious institutions, exempting them from the policy. But that wasn't good enough for the GOP. Senator Bernie Sanders says it's an attack on women.
Let me add my strong belief that if the United States Senate had 83 women and 17 men rather than 83 men and 17 women, my strong guess is that a bill like this would never even make it to the floor.
Yet 4 out of the 5 Republican women in the Senate voted for the measure, including Susan Collins, who made this statement before the vote.
This issue has become a sad example of election year politics.
Senator Olympia Snowe, who will retire at the end of the year, was the lone Republican voting against the bill. 3 Democrats, all men, voted with Republicans. Conservatives have claimed all along that this is about religious freedom. Who better to weigh in on the subject of contraception and morality than Senator David Vitter of Louisiana?
Catholics, many other Christians, many people of faith do not believe in certain activity and treatment that is mandated now to be covered by this mandatory insurance. And that is crossing a line that we have never before crossed in this country.
Vitter, of course, admitted to frequenting an escort service a few years back, and according to the prostitute, Mr. Vitter reportedly patronized the gentleman from Louisiana used contraception. Meanwhile, on the campaign trail, Mitt Romney attempted to clean up the mess he created on the Blunt Amendment. Romney came out against the measure just yesterday.
I'm not for the bill, but look, the idea of presidential candidates getting into questions about contraception within a relationship between a man and a woman, a husband and wife, I'm not going there.
Immediately after that interview, Romney's campaign said the candidate supported the Blunt Amendment. Romney tried to clear up the confusion earlier.
I didn't understand his question. Of course I support the Blunt Amendment. I thought he was talking about some state law that prevented people from getting contraception.
Rick Santorum isn't buying it.
We saw an insight into what's in the gut of Governor Romney yesterday when he was asked the question about the Blunt Amendment. Well, then after his consultants talked to him, and then he came back, I said I didn't understand the question. Well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I tell you, if I was asked a question like that, my gut reaction would be always, you stand for the First Amendment. You stand for freedom of religion.
Despite today's outcome, Republicans say they aren't letting this issue go.
I think it's important for us to win this issue. The government, our government, for 220 years has respected the religious views of the American people. And for all of this time, there's been an exception for those churches and other groups to protect the religious beliefs that they believe in. And that's being violated here.
And I am joined tonight by Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. Senator, good to have you with us on the Ed Show tonight. Thanks for your time.
Great to be with you, Ed.
Senator, there are 48 members of the United States Senate who voted for the Blunt Amendment. And this evening, Roy Blunt says the fight is not over. What does that mean, and how much farther will the Republicans take this?
Well, I don't know. I hope that they will decide that it's time to get back to making sure that we can get a highway bill passed that's going to help create jobs and invest in infrastructure, build the roads and bridges and provide the mass transit that this country needs, and stop trying to come between women and their health care and their doctors.
Republicans denied a Georgetown law student, Sandra Fluke, from testifying about contraception before Congress. She did give testimony in front of a House Democratic committee, and now she's being targeted by the GOP mouthpiece, Rush Limbaugh. Here it is.
What does it say about the college co-ed Susan Fluke, who goes before a congressional committee and essentially says that she must be paid to have sex? What does that make her? It makes her a slut, right? Makes her a prostitute. She wants to be paid to have sex.
Senator, we all know Limbaugh's position with the Republican Party. Is there any Republican in the U.S. Senate that would defend that?
Listen, I think those remarks are distasteful and they don't deserve a response. The fact is, here in Congress, we should be respectful of everyone who comes before us. And this young woman from Georgetown had a very important story to tell about the real effect on women of making sure that contraceptives, like other medications, are available. And as she pointed out, for 14% of women, 1.5 million women, they use contraceptives not for birth control, but for other medical reasons.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen, New Hampshire, thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
In just a few minutes, the target of Rush Limbaugh's attacks, Sandra Fluke, will join me exclusively. First, I want to bring in Terry O'Neill, president of the National Organization for Women, and Dr. Caroline Heldman, professor of politics at Occidental College. Rush Limbaugh doubled down on his attacks on this college student on his radio show today. Here it is.
I will buy all of the women at Georgetown University as much aspirin to put between their knees as they want. We are paying her for having sex. We are getting screwed. So, Ms. Fluke and the rest of you feminazis, here's the deal. If we are going to pay for your contraceptives and thus pay for you to have sex, we want something for it. And I'll tell you what it is. We want you to post the videos online so we can all watch.
Terry O'Neill, what's your reaction to Limbaugh's broadcasting of this issue?
Honestly, I think he needs to be fired. I think that he should not be on the air. I mean, the level of offensiveness of his remarks, really, he has clearly crossed a line. Not that when he does that, frankly, it makes a lot of money for my organization. I mean, you know, the people are completely outraged. But I think that the offensiveness needs to be recognized, and he just shouldn't be on the air anymore. Should
the GOP get involved in this with his connections to the Republican Party and how often the Republican Party follows his lead?
Yeah, I don't know how the GOP distances itself from him. He has been their leading spokesperson for quite a while now. The GOP leaders really kowtow to Rush Limbaugh, so they are very much joined at the hip, they have a problem on their hands, and that problem is only getting worse when our elected officials in the Republican Party, when John Boehner goes and says, "Gosh, this is something that we need to win," restricting birth control. The way you win the birth control issue is by making sure that women have unfettered access to it. That is essential to women's reproductive health care, and it's really a question of public health as well.
Today, House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi railed on Republicans for the Blunt Amendment vote. Here it is.
The Republicans are kicking off Women's History Month by bringing the Blunt Amendment to the floor in the United States Senate. Instead of talking about jobs, which is what the American people expect and deserve us to be doing, what they sent us here to do, we've moved on to the Blunt Amendment, a blunt, sweeping overreach into women's health, part of the Republican agenda of disrespecting women's health issues.
Caroline, this seems to be going far beyond women's health issue and now becoming a cultural issue about the standing of women in our society. How do you see it?
Well, I see it as a coordinated campaign because it's happening at the federal level in Congress, not just with this amendment, but other amendments or proposals. It's happening at the state level. Every Republican-controlled state house right now is considering restrictions to abortion or contraception. And it's happening in the media with Rush Limbaugh and others of his ilk who are trying to silence women through slut-shaming, which, yes, he should be fired for. But frankly, I think it will backfire. I think that Rush Limbaugh should stay on the air, and Republicans should continue to try to restrict women's access to their sexual freedom and ability to make choices, because it can only help the Democrats come November. This I'd like to call it the Republican boys' war on women. It turns us back half a century, and it exposes the hatred of women or the disdain for women that is inherent in certain parts of the Republican Party. And 26% of voters in the election in 2008 were single women. So they decided the outcome of the election, and they may well do it again if Republicans keep promoting this hateful dialogue.
Terry O'Neill, Dr. Caroline Heldman, thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate it. We want to know what you think. Get your cell phones out. Tonight's question: does Rush Limbaugh have the character to apologize for his sexist remarks? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. And you can always go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com. We'll bring you the results later on in the show. You may be wondering, how is he allowed to go on the air and say these kinds of things with absolutely no discipline, no repercussion? Let me tell you something. In the radio business, apparently he is too big to fail. But I have to say tonight, as a broadcaster who has said things that he's had to apologize for, I find it absolutely disgusting that Limbaugh doubles down on it. Where is the right wing, and where is the pressure being put on Limbaugh as it was put on me? This student that you're going to see on the Ed Show coming up is not a public figure, doesn't have a chance to fight back, and Limbaugh just picks on her. John Hogan, you're the CEO of Clear Channel. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. We'll hear from the target of Rush Limbaugh's disgusting rant. Georgetown University law student Sandra Fluke joins me exclusively next. The outrageous, racist email about the President of the United States from a federal judge. Michael Eric Dyson joins me on that. Stay with us. We're right back.